Welcome back to our channel, and if you're new here, a huge hello and welcome from us. We are Mike and Jill, a couple of British expats who've called Australia home since 2007. We typically vlog our cruises in and around Australia, but this year we took our first European cruise with a new cruise line to us called Marella on their recently renovated ship Voyager. This cruise was a whole new concept to us. It's operated by TUI, who are a British tour operator. And if you know anything about how the Brits travel, you'll know they love a package holiday, and that's exactly what Marella offer. A package holiday on the sea. They can include your flights to and from the ship, as well as a basic drink package. So you could actually have a holiday where you don't spend a single penny from the moment you arrive at the airport. Our journey began in Sydney with a flight to Singapore, then on to Munich, and finally arriving in Edinburgh, where we were joined by my parents. We live in Sydney, about half an hour away from the cruise terminal, so embarkation day was a very different experience for us this time round. It was crazy. We had to fly from Edinburgh to pick up the cruise, and our TUI flight had been rescheduled and then delayed, so we didn't actually arrive into the ship until quite late in the evening, and we'd actually missed muster. Actually missed it, full stop. They told us not to bother. That's crazy, and is it even legal? However, we did arrive in time to grab a late dinner in the buffet, and they'd held off starting the sail away party till everyone was on board, and that was a lot of fun. When it comes to cruising, one of the most anticipated aspects is undoubtedly the food, and Voyager certainly has plenty to offer. We're going to start our food review here in the ship's buffet. Now, being a relatively newly renovated ship, we're keen to see what Marella had done with their buffet, which is now set up in the popular food hall style, and it's called the kitchens. The first thing you'll notice about the kitchens are how bright and modern the decor is, and a quick walkthrough showed us that it's a relatively small buffet, but it has a really good range of culinary experiences, all of which suit that British palate, but also offering plenty of international flavours. The kitchens is made of different eateries, some of the highlights including roast dinners at the Gravy Boat, Asian curries at Banyan Leaf, and Greek-style pitas in Athena's. The layout is really well designed with plenty of space everywhere, which avoids the usual gridlock of people wandering around with plates of food that we've seen in other buffets. However, we didn't visit at peak lunch or dinner times, so when we were there, the only servery that had a decent sized queue was the salad servery. There were always plenty of seating options, and that was a very big surprise on such a busy ship. And it always appeared to be clean, and rarely did we see tables left for long with empty crockery or cutlery. The kitchens are open for breakfast, lunch, afternoon tea, dinner and late night snacks, so let's start with breakfast. For breakfast, the kitchens open at 6:30am and they close at 11am. Now, we all know the Brits love a cooked breakfast, and the kitchens don't disappoint there. Mike especially loved that bacon. With breakfast done, the kitchens are next open for lunch, and here we'll see the 8 different serving sections, all offering a unique style of food. First stop is the Gravy Boat. Arriving late on board, we were starving and had an amazing roast dinner from here. They also offered what looked to be amazing roast dinners wrapped in a Yorkshire pudding, and I am so kicking myself for not trying one of those. Next door is Bamboo, and if you love Asian style food, then Bamboo is the place for you, and everything looked fresh and tasty. They offer a small but decent range of ramen, chow mein, sweet and sour, and also a daily special. Another thing the Brits love is a good pie, and the pastry crust was certainly proof of this. They were so busy every time we visited, serving a selection of hot pies and pastries. This was my favourite stop in the kitchens. The team here at the Dress Leaf will customise you a fresh salad to order from a decent assortment of fresh ingredients and dressings. They also have some ready-made standard salad favourites such as Caesar and Greek salad. Now, there were always large queues here at the Dress Leaf, so if you're planning to take a salad and accompany that with a hot dish, grab that salad first. If you're looking for something quick and light, then the pantry is the place to go, and there you'll find a decent selection of sandwiches, paninis and wraps. And next to that, with a name like Athena's, can you imagine what they serve? Yep, Greek-inspired food, including lamb, chicken kebabs, hummus, tzatziki and gyros. Is that how you even pronounce it? But if you prefer some spice, then the Banyan Leaf is the place to pick up some tasty Indian street food. Now for those of you with a sweet tooth, there are two great options in the kitchens. First up is the pâtissière with a colourful selection of desserts and cakes and really nice fresh fruit. And of course no cruise is complete without ice cream, and on Voyager the place to find that is cherry on top. You'll find the kitchens open for lunch from 11:30 until 2 p.m, and then again for dinner from 6 p.m. till 9 p.m. And there's no better tasting snack than a nearly midnight snack. And the kitchens are open again for late night snacks from 10 till 12. And apparently we weren't the only ones who thought that a midnight snack was a good idea. And last but not least, as well as the usual self-service soft drinks and tea and coffee, there's something we haven't personally seen on any other cruise ship so far, and that was the self-service beer and wine taps. These of course are only available due to the fact that this is an all-inclusive ship. And let's just say that Mike's days as a barman are long behind him, and he says not to be deceived by that glass. The beer was all Foster's and not Heineken. Next up on our foodie tour, we're going to look at the casual dining options on board, and remember, these are still included with your fare. So we'll start with Abuela's. Abuela's serves Mexican food, and it's open for lunch and dinner, serving a small but tasty selection of Mexican favourites. You'll find it on deck 11 on the starboard side of the summer house, and it's open from 11:30 till 5 and then from 6:30 until 9. Abuela's nods its head to being like a little Mexican cantina with lovely brightly coloured chairs. It did feel a little bit more like a canteen in terms of those neat little matching rows of tables, but the food was fantastic. For lunch we had loaded nachos with chili and spicy chicken, and for dinner they have all those usual Mexican favourites such as enchiladas and burritos and more. We actually did love to take a plate of nachos out to the summer house deck overlooking the ship's wake and enjoy that with a margarita or a mojito. And opposite Abuela's on deck 11 you'll find Nonna's. They're mirror images of each other, and Nonna's exclusively serves freshly made pizzas and pasta dishes. For lunch you'll usually find 3 pasta options plus pizzas, and in the evening they extend that range and also include desserts such as panna cotta and tiramisu. The Snack Shack is located on the pool deck, and it's the perfect spot for a quick bite by the pool, as well as hot dogs, burgers, fish and chips, fries, mac and cheese. It also offers light bites in pre-packaged containers, which are great for just something to grab and go during the day. We did manage to resist the temptation of the chips most of the time, but boy did they smell good. Last stop for casual dining was this pop-up barbecue which appeared on the pool deck for an early dinner towards the end of our cruise. We loved the jerk chicken. Latitude 53 is the ship's main dining room, and it's spread across decks 5 and 6 at the aft of the ship. The staff in here are attentive and really friendly, and we loved that the tables actually had high quality linens, which made it feel a little more upscale than some main dining rooms. For those lucky enough to be seated at the rear of the room, there are dramatic views from those ceiling to floor wake facing windows. Now we especially loved the waiter service breakfasts in here. Sadly we only managed it a couple of times because we had a lot of port stops with early calls, but I would definitely make this something that you try when you're on Voyager. The menu options are exactly what you would expect from a ship main dining room, with a heavy slant towards British favourites. We even had haggis, which is a first for us on a ship, and the quality of the food in here was really good. I'd actually go so far as to say I think I preferred it to the main dining rooms on Celebrity Edge and Royal Princess, and that's saying something. Now if you fancy something a little different, nestled inside Latitude down on deck 5 you'll find Vista. It looks much the same as Latitude, but it has a different menu offering delicious Italian food and wine. And don't miss out on their signature dish, which is the tableside tossed carbonara from a Parmesan veal. There's no booking required, you simply rock up when you're ready to eat and you'll be seated as soon as a table is ready. They do have buzzers, so if it's going to be a bit of a wait, they'll just send you off to a nearby bar for a drink while you wait. But really, we hardly ever waited more than about 5 minutes. Anyway, overall, we enjoyed the main dining rooms on Voyager and probably give them something like an 8 out of 10. So as you've seen, there's plenty of included food for you on Voyager. But if you want something that's a little more of an elevated experience, there are plenty of specialty dinings. We didn't actually dine in any of these restaurants for this cruise because we were travelling with others this time. However, for the most part, the feedback we got from other passengers was that the food was fantastic. Let's start with Silver Fork. Silver Fork offers an innovative British menu, and it also hosts the weekly Great Musical Afternoon Tea with apparently dishes inspired by musical theatre together with teas and cocktails, and we were gutted that we missed that because we were off the ship exploring. And what's a cruise ship without a steakhouse? On Voyager, you'll find Surf and Turf, and that offers a menu exactly as you'd expect. It seemed to be very popular on board and it was always busy. Tucked in behind Surf and Turf, you'll find Corala, and this is a stylish Pan-Asian restaurant with a great range of Asian food. Okay, this is a strange one. We all know how popular charcuterie boards are these days, and we applaud Marella for trying this out, but it seems to us to be a bit of a fail. We didn't once see anybody in there, and we didn't meet a single person who had either. And I think on a ship with a decent buffet, paying for a charcuterie board just doesn't make any sense. And it wasn't even in a particularly good location either. It's a little bit like sitting in a hallway with no atmosphere. We actually have paid for a charcuterie board on a ship, but it was part of a bar menu, and sitting in a bar has so much more atmosphere. That worked really well. But having this standalone space just didn't work, and we wouldn't at all be surprised if Marella don't repurpose this space at some point soon. You'll be spoiled for choice on Voyager with a raft of bars and lounges available, from its large Broadway-style theatre to the poolside bar. There is definitely something for everyone. Let's take a look. Our first stop is at the Broadway Show Lounge, and you'll find that on Deck 6 and Deck 7. They show 2 shows a night, and they're West End style shows. There's a large, well laid out theatre, seating up to 900, and apparently is home to no less than 12 Broadway style shows. We saw 2 and they were both excellent. The cinema is found on Deck 6, and whilst it's small, it was never crowded. It plays shows during the day and in the evening, including classics as well as big box office hits. If you love trivia, bingo, live bands and game shows, this is the place to be. It's a typical show lounge with a stage, a dance floor and seating all around. Squid and Anchor on Deck 7 has been designed to replicate a traditional British pub, and make sure you don't miss this amazing show by the bar staff. And out the back of Squid and Anchor is quite possibly the best smoking section I've ever seen, with the most amazing views. A self-proclaimed speakeasy bar hidden on Deck 8, the Exchange is open as a cocktail lounge but also as a venue for chargeable events called The Heist and The Lockout. Okay, we can't really gush too much about this place. Plain and simple, we didn't like it. The staff are lovely. The drinks menu is really good with some unique cocktails, but the design of the space in that horseshoe design just doesn't work. We purchased tickets for The Heist, and we were seated in a booth, and half of our party were seated not just with their back to the performance but with a wall behind them, so they couldn't see a thing. I have no clue who thought that this would be a good venue for a performance, but they got this one very wrong. Now, I hate to bag staff on a ship, I know how hard they work, but this show really wasn't that good either, and only those seated right at the front had any clue what was going on, and probably had a very different experience to us. Actually, if you've seen these shows, please let us know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, back to the fun stuff. If you love a bit of stargazing while you watch a movie, then the open air cinema is the perfect place to be. Oh Voyager, you had me at the press for bubbles buttons, and now I'm trying to work out where I can install one at home. Flutes is an unusually designed space, but this is a lovely bar offering a decent range of champagne and prosecco, often accompanied by a pianist. It's the perfect meeting place for a pre-dinner fizz or a nightcap, but please note that this bar is not an included bar, so there is a charge here. Well, there's nothing like a cocktail by the pool on a ship, and the place you get them on Voyager is the Shack. It has a decent range of soft drinks and popular alcoholic drinks and cocktails. The only thing we didn't like about this spot though was it was directly beside the smoking area, and the queues were often fairly long, so there was no avoiding that smoke. The Electric Rooms is a really well designed space set up to be a bar, event space and a casino. We especially loved the silent discos. Well, who doesn't love a silent disco, hey? The casino though is a bit of a letdown. It was tiny and pretty quiet. It might be that the Brits don't gamble on ships, and I know a lot of people would be happy if ship casinos disappeared altogether, but we do like a little flutter at the end of the night on a ship. It's the only time we ever do visit a casino. So so this one was a bit of a letdown, but otherwise this is a great space with amongst the friendliest staff on board. During the day, the Arts House is a fairly quiet spot with arts and crafts on offer as well as a couple of decent sized shuffleboards. By night, it transforms to a busy hive of activity with live music. Aperitif is a tiny bar located on Deck 7 near some of the specialty restaurants. They have some incredible cocktails here, which are not included in the all-included package, but well worth it. It also has a great range of whiskies. It's another of those places that's a little bit of a corridor, but it does have some nice seating near the bar. The summer house sits between Nonas and Abuelas with a full bar which serves from both inside and the outside deck. The inside space is beautifully decorated with modern outdoor style seating. It's a real multi-use space with a retractable roof that opens during the day and a little stage for live music during the evening. This was actually a very quiet spot on our cruise because it did get quite warm during the day, but it's a great place to sit and read. In stark contrast, however, the deck area on the outside of the summer house was always jam-packed due to those amazing views off the aft of the ship. This was probably our favourite spot on board, but it was slightly let down by the awful seats. Those wooden arms had what felt like a year of sunscreen build on them and you could literally scrape it off. But don't let that spoil your afternoon there, it's a great spot. If you know us, you know we love coffee, and the place for premium coffee on board is the Coffee Port, which is wrapped around the atrium on Deck 6. This is a spacious and bright area and it serves coffee as well as some tasty cakes. There's loads of seating and even a little library in case you forgot to bring a book. Directly downstairs from the Coffee Port you'll find the guest services and the excursion desks. They're on the lowest level of the atrium on Deck 5. We booked most of our excursions online before we even boarded, but there were still decent lines of guests booking on board, so I guess there's still lots of availability for those guests who prefer to book on board. You can choose to chat to the staff if you need some inspiration or assistance, but there are also some handy terminals where you can do it yourself. We also attended a really handy shore excursion presentation on board, and that was really useful because it described the itinerary, the ports of calls, and many of the excursions available. That was really helpful. While we're down here, can I just say that this atrium is fairly small, but it felt like a missed opportunity to host events here. We saw it used once for a dance exhibition, but otherwise it was really quiet and not used, which is a real shame. Maybe that's just our itinerary though. We did have a wander through the spa and the gym, but on such a busy itinerary, we just didn't have the time to use them. They both did look well kept and they had everything you'd need if you wanted to exercise or be indulged whilst on board. And if you want a little peace and quiet on Voyager, you can actually pay to use this private sun deck, which is part of the spa. We all like to keep our step count up on a cruise, and you'll find the jogging track on the top deck if you're planning to do that. For us personally, all our excursions were full walking day tours, so we didn't need to do our usual laps of the ship this time. The main pool on Voyager was very popular, and by that read busy. Loungers were always at a premium, especially in the sun, and the hot tubs were continually packed. We'd actually heard some horror stories of lounge hoggers on Marella ships, but we didn't spend much time by the pool, so it really wasn't a problem for us. But if we'd had a lot of sea days, I could imagine it being pretty hectic around here. Ah, the good old ship mini golf. Who doesn't love mini golf at sea, hey? This one's small and simple, but lots of fun. Many cruise ships now offer adult-only areas, which is great, and Voyager does have this lovely quiet spot, but it's really tiny. It would have been nice also to have had a hot tub up here. It was super quiet though, so if you want peace, you'll definitely find it up here. And also there are these beds that can be rented, but we didn't see anybody ever use them. There's the usual array of onboard shops on Voyager, so if you fancy splurging on jewellery or watches or some new cosmetics or duty free, there's plenty to choose from. We didn't really have much of an opportunity to check out any of the kids clubs because we arrived late into the evening on embarkation day. But here's some more information about what's available. We specifically chose this cruise for its itinerary. It ticked a lot of bucket list items for us, and it allowed us to visit Sicily, Amalfi, Pompeii, Rome, Corsica, Girona, and Mallorca. We opted for ship-based tours for all but one of those stops, and whilst they were expensive, they were all fantastic. We were disembarked early and quickly, all transport was waiting right there for us, and each and every tour operator was just fantastic, and no concerns about the ship leaving us behind, which is the stuff of nightmares. There is purchasable Wi-Fi on Voyager, and being so far away from home, we actually opted for the most expensive option, only to find it stopped working before the end of the cruise, which wasn't ideal. There also isn't an onboard app like other cruise lines typically have. Instead, Marella allow you to access an intranet whilst on board the ship, and everything you need is there. This is a cruise line that's incredibly popular in the UK, but almost completely unknown elsewhere. It can only be booked via TUI's UK-based shops or their website, which means everyone on board is from the UK and everything on board is designed with that in mind. The Brits love to have fun, and the atmosphere on board is so lively. It's a little bit like visiting the UK, but on the sea and the sunshine. We loved it. Voyager is a really friendly ship. It's clean, it's modern, and it's brightly decorated, even if we did feel that its design was often a little reminiscent of an airport lounge, with lots of neatly arranged rows of matching seats in many of its venues. There were lots of large family groups and a really fun atmosphere. It wasn't a late night ship, which is probably due to that busy itinerary, but there was always plenty to do and plenty to see. The simplicity of having an all-included cruise really takes the stress out of planning. However, we did feel that the communication from Marella regarding airport check-ins was confusing, and that is also replicated daily in Marella social media groups. We were quite concerned early on about that late flight, meaning that we'd essentially missed a day of our cruise. In actual fact, what happened is that on disembarkation day, they allowed us to have full use of the ship until the buses arrived in the evening to take us to the airport. They even arranged to hold our hand luggage until 2 PM, and that allowed us to book a morning tour in Palma before heading back to the ship for a relaxing afternoon. I think you can also pay for access to a room, but we didn't need that. We really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us to be seen, and it's completely free. See you next time on the high seas.